Somewhere from where we left off yesterday, I see that many people haven't come. Probably they thought there were lectures which were, each one of them was a capsule. In some senses it was. But in a sense they are a continuum, because I feel that 6 lectures on the same issue, the right to know, needed to have a continuum and different issues to be discussed. So I'm standing here because this podium in any case hides me, because I'm too small. So, and all these podium or podia, I don't know, the plural is, are actually patriarchal. They do not allow women to be seen. So we begin with that of visibility, and then we go on to other things. So I would really request your university to please see that these podiums are smaller, so that actually we need them somewhere at waist height, so that we can even read more easily and talk. And this is a big feminist issue which we battle with wherever we go. And also when I went to a very male-dominated court in Delhi, in Parliament Street courts, I was dwarfed by the desk. So I think these are things which we have to remember as part of our politics of equality. And it doesn't end with the Constitution and with our swearing allegiance to it. We really have to look at every single detail of how it's interpreted in terms of our daily life. And I think this is an important thing. So you'll forgive me if I kind of stand outside at an angle so that I can at least see you. Otherwise I can't see you, apart from you're seeing me. So let me begin today. Yesterday we talked about certain processes. The most important thing that Mahatma Gandhi said when the national movement was beginning was that he wanted to listen to people. He'd come from South Africa. He was an Indian. He'd gone to the Inns of Court. He'd studied law in London. He came back and he knew very little about real India. So for a year, he went in a third-class compartment. In those days, there used to be third-class compartments, and traveled all over India listening to ordinary people. And not only what I read about Gandhiji, but my immense failure to comprehend and understand people when I left Delhi and the IIS and came to rural areas of India was not only the idiom, but the culture of conversation, the culture of starting a dialogue, the essence of how communication gets established, because in a sense, in a penultimate sense, communication is life. Death is the final non-communicative state of an individual. So in a sense, communication is the beginning of all dialogue, all conversation, and it is not preset in a format which we can learn in a university, however intelligent we are. It requires us to go and understand how a woman will talk to me, how a Dalit woman will talk to me, how any other person from another community will talk to me, how the males will see me, no matter whether I was in the IAS or not. The Rajasthani macho male never ever considered me an equal. So it was the difficulty of talking to a macho male in my village, and him looking at the tiny boy who was standing next to me and addressing him. He would not address me. So I had to understand how to start a conversation. So I'm just saying all this because it's so important to understand how to dialogue with people, and you cannot be a social activist, a transformer of inequality in rural India or urban India, anywhere, without understanding this. Today I'm going briefly through 3 very specific examples, because I think generalities are all right, but you get them from any book. What you'll get from me are specifics. So I'm going to talk about 3 cases and what were the inferences for the right to information. The first thing, the first issue I'll go to is the issue of Lal Singh ji. Lal Singh, great guy, he's still there. He's now my compatriot, my comrade, my friend. He's been quoted all over the place. He said some brilliant things. I'll come to it tomorrow perhaps of what he said. And Lal Singh is an ordinary farmer. He was a constable in the Rajasthan police who first protested and sat on a strike, saying that constables will not go and work as domestic help in senior police officers' homes, not wash their clothes and look after their babies and clean them. So he joined the protest and he was dismissed. And he came back home and he was just selling milk. But he had passed his high secondary, speaks very good English. So when we reached and lived in that mud hut I showed you yesterday, we needed the kitchen repaired, so we needed a mason. So someone said, since you're so hung up on ethics and honesty, we'll have to get you an honest mason. So we know one Lal Singh who's a very honest mason. Why don't you get him to help you with it? So the honest mason turned up. He was a wonderful man and a terrible mason, because the repairs he did to our kitchen was so bad that with the sparse rainfall that you get in Rajasthan, our kitchen was permanently flooded. So we had to bail out bucket after bucket of water and throw it out because he was such a bad mason. But Lal Singh ji became a very good friend, and he brought to us the case of Sohangarh, where in 1987, how many of you have seen the film Sholay? A lot of you have seen it. It's about oppressive feudal systems in a village. It was Sholay in Sohangarh. Hari Singh Thakur of Tal would not allow them to take mud from a common property resource unless they dumped half the mud in his house. You could not graze your cattle in that common property resource and then take milk and from that milk make ghee. And if you made ghee, you have to get half to him. I mean, he was just an extortionist, and there was nothing. This land was government land. It was what you call in South India, in some parts of South India, especially in Tamil Nadu, Porambok land. I don't know what you call it in Karnataka and Kerala and Andhra. So it was government land, but he extorted. So he came to us and said, we have to get together to get rights over this land. And that phenomenal battle that we got into in Sohangarh, and I want to tell you what happened in that battle. We were opposed with the most extreme violence I have faced since I started working in Devdugri with the Mazdoor Kisan Shakti Sangathan, which came to be later. We had to face guns, we had to face rape threats, I had to face rape threats, the young men who were working with me were beaten up. So land is always a vital issue, especially friends, if there are any from Bihar and UP, will know that it leads directly to death. If you ask for land, and recently in Rajasthan, jump all those many years and come back, 5 Dalits in a village called Dangavas in Ajmer district were mowed under a tractor and killed about 8 months ago because they dared claim their rights to land allotted to them legally. So land is extremely volatile. So in this whole battle, we came up first with the notion of a Sangathan. The entire area mobilized into this very firm and strong women's organization which demanded the allotment of that land. But the most important thing from the point of view of information was the fact that Hari Singh, this Thakur, was 8th class pass, but he was a very smart man. A Thakur is a Rajput overlord. He's a feudal overlord. Well, I don't think in South India you have Thakurs. Not even a Jamindar, but somebody who gets this right because he was born into a family who ruled before. He did something extraordinary. The land was supposed to be allotted. In a government camp, we went there. We applied for allotment. What he had done was, he had gone to the revenue officials, and in the notice that is put up for describing the land that will be allotted with all the revenue numbers and what they call khatedari numbers in northern India, he had eliminated the numbers of the properties for which we wanted allotment. So when we went for the allotment, the government officials said, since we have not notified that land, we cannot allot it to you. So with great trouble, the whole village of Sohangarh, so frightened by what might happen to them, had gone there to get their land allotted, and they were told, sorry, your number is not there. So withholding of information is power. Sharing of information is also power. For the first time, we realized in a big community of beings how important it was to know the information about those revenue details, about the land that we wanted allotted. It was like dynamite. I can't tell you what happened in that meeting, the palpable tension of that meeting, the threats in that meeting, and the huge realization how information was important. Anyway, in the next meeting, the numbers were brought, we put pressure on the system, the numbers came up, we made sure that the numbers were there, we got the land. But the point is, this is the first large collective realization of the importance of information. Just to show you a small clip, I will just ask my friend to show clips 1 and 2 if you will. They're small excerpts from a film. So you will see how small little details of information are really power. And then explaining that, I'll tell you my next small episode. I'll relate the next small episode. Can you please play?
आपने फोकस करना गाड़ी से आपके बंद गाड़ी करनी नाली में काम चल रहा हो ये टाइम में पैसे हाथ करना काम करो और खबर मालूम हमारे बैंक गाड़ी नहीं बिल्कुल पट्टीवाला है बाकी इंडस्ट्री से पैसा आए हमारे पास जब पता चला हमारे कि भाई तुमने क्या नाली पे काम किया मैंने कहा भाई पता नहीं मैं नाली पर काम चल रहा था मैं कहीं गाड़ी वाड़ में था तो बल्कि आप नहीं गाली थी और बैठ गया था लेकिन नहीं था मैं नहीं जानता बिल्कुल पहली बार
Second one also, please.
पूरी बात बताऊँ
मैं 1 महीना और 8 दिन का
पूरा कितने पैसे मिले क्या
नहीं मिले, एक भी पैसे नहीं।
क्या
हाँ, 1 महीना का और 8 दिन का एक भी पैसे नहीं मिले।
Anyway, there you saw Vimla, who had worked for 8 months and was not paid a single penny. So these were the instances of people's lives and agonies. See, when we talk about theory about information, we talk about the theory of governance, we go into a lot of details of theory and how it should be done. In the lives of ordinary people, it means nothing. So you have cheating. The first instance was of cheating. When you're cheated on paper and you don't know, as I was coming in, a young friend asked me, he said, how do you prevent corruption? So much money is going into Chennai now. How will we monitor it? The tsunami money was distributed, but we didn't know, and there's cheating. Unless you have information, how will you know? In the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, Rajiv Gandhi said, if you send 1 rupee down to the village, 15 paisa reaches. Everybody knows that famous quote from him. But if you don't even know that the rupee has reached, how can you as a people monitor it? So the most important thing is to know that that 1 rupee has come to you. When I was an IAS officer working in Delhi, my superintending engineer had the audacity to sit in my room and have tea and say, if I want, I can dig a tank. If I want, I can fill it up again. If I want, I can dig it again. Meaning, it was never dug, it was never filled up, and it will never be dug. But you can claim money for it. The audacity of the system has been just phenomenal. So information really is power today. If you do not see the information visibly, and you don't see the details, you can't find it out. I go to my collector and say, how much is the budget for district X? The collector will say, it's Y. You know, it will be some massive amounts, crores and lakhs with paisas and everything. And I come back and I can't act on that. Unless I know how much money has gone into the making of a specific tank or a specific house or a specific well or a specific Indira Awas Yojana, a specific loan, I cannot find out what the details are. The English, when they left us, they said the devil lies in the details. And I'll say it very often, but it's true. Because it's only when you see the details that you see the devil, which is what? Corruption, which is mismanagement, which is siphoning money. So it was extremely vital that we see the details. And in this whole process, Chunni Bai and Bhava, two very good comrades and colleagues, just like Lal Singh, who joined us. One a Dalit woman and one person from the backward classes community. They said, we are going to fight to see, A, that we build assets. And we are going to fight to see that we get the minimum wage. So in a place very close to us, they were digging and deepening the tank bed. Rajasthan is a drought-prone area. You will see some of the clips today, so you will see how bad the drought is. So in digging those things, water for us is very precious. So in digging those tank beds, they were prescribed a certain amount of land they had to dig every day. When they started digging, they said, okay, we'll form a group of 20, which will work very hard and work honestly. So the 20 became 80. Out of a group of 500 people working there, 80 people said, we'll work honestly, we'll take out the full amount of mud, but you must pay us the full minimum wage. So this control group worked so hard that the depth of the pit that they dug was somewhere below that line of chairs to the ground. The others who were not committed to it and who didn't care, they just scratched the surface and they dug 6 inches, literally, of the land. We went back to the administration and we said, here's an example. Please don't make people cheat, because if you don't give enough money, don't pay the proper wages, and you pay the person who works the same amount as the person whom you take to your home to build your house or to dig in your garden, nobody is going to work. And what is really harmed is national assets, is the asset of that village, is the people's right you are hitting at. And they said, all right, you can do it, we will help you, but they did nothing. But anyway, we did it. So when we went to them, the irrigation department, and said, you must pay these people full wages, do you know what they did? Soon after, there was a festival in northern India called Raksha Bandhan. It's a very important festival, we call it Rakhi. Just before that, they came to dispense the amount, and they paid the people who had dug that deep 2 rupees less than what they paid the people who had scratched the surface 6 inches. So what message was the government giving us? What was it giving us? Who will respond? What is the message the government was giving us as people? Anyone? Ethics? Those who are dealing with ethics, studying ethics or governance or management. What is the message it's giving us? Yes? What is the message? It says, you cheat along with us, it's fine. You want to establish integrity there by doing your work, creating an asset and asking for a full wage. We are not with you. They do not want. The lower bureaucracy simply does not want these assets to be created most of the time, at least in many places in India. So we realized that the most important thing is the information about everything that people must have, exactly how much money there comes to this work site, what is the amount of mud they must dig to get that thing, how many people are on the work site, the attendance should be there, so we know who the persons are who are going off to the officers' houses or to private farms and working there and claiming their money. So for them, even if you give them 2 rupees a day, they are quite happy because they are being paid elsewhere. So what happens to the poor of this land? So information really became an extraordinary thing, and minimum wage became a very critical issue. And minimum wage is, as I said yesterday, the bottom line for people who want to sustain themselves in a decent manner, live with dignity. And I knew from before, because I was very friendly with a woman called Norati, still am. She was Sarpanch at one time. She, along with Sushila, went to release the UN report, biannual report in New York. She is now going to address the National Federation of Indian Women as the keynote speaker. She is probably going to the SAARC meeting in Pakistan to represent India. She is not formally literate. She is self-taught. She works the computer. She can download from the MG and REJ work site and look at how many people are working. She knows the rules and regulations of the government of Rajasthan. When as Sarpanch, they sent orders, she downloaded them from the net. She's a brilliant woman, but if you see her, you wouldn't make out that. She looks like any ordinary worker. She's a Dalit. She still lives in that semi-kacha house that she always lived in, but she's one of the most remarkable women I have ever met. Norti in 1980 protested against the non-payment of minimum wages. That's how I made friends with her in Ajmer district. I went and met her, and because of her mobilization, a Supreme Court case was filed called Sanjeet Roy versus the state of Rajasthan, and you can all refer to it. Are there any law students here today? No, the Faculty of Law is absent. No, they are there. It's, you can look up the AIR. I can't remember the reference. It was a 1983 judgment of the Supreme Court. This is the single bench, and then the double bench and the divisional bench, all ordered against the government of Rajasthan, ordering Rajasthan government to pay minimum wages. that you cannot pay double wages, one wage for people who work on drought relief and one for people who work on PWD works. It's a historic judgment. So in Orthi, from then onwards, it taught me the vital issue of minimum wages, and it's through these minimum wage battles that we also arrived at the right to information. Because the first real battle against the state was to find out how we can get our minimum wages. I told you yesterday to see the records, and everywhere the door was shut on us, and we realized that we are in an enslaved situation. We are not in a free country. We can't even see basic records which are related to us, and that's what made Mohanji sing that beautiful song I played for you yesterday, where he said, now it's the pen that destroys our lives, and therefore minimum wages has been a critical issue for the MKSS. It's through that we came also through the business of information. But this time we were also quite clever. We not only had a local struggle, we sat on hunger strike. As I told you yesterday, government of Rajasthan stopped 100 crores, the government of India stopped 100 crores of the next installment of JRY to the government of Rajasthan. The chief minister went up in smoke. He was so angry with us because of this protest we had in this small little town called Beam. But minimum wages also went into much larger areas of discussion. We had one convention in Beam in which we invited the late Mr. B.D. Sharma, who died only 4 or 5 days ago. He used to be Commissioner Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes, Government of India. He attended. Mr. K.B. Saxena, who was Additional Secretary in the Government of India dealing with labour and so on, also came. And we invited people from all over to that convention, but it was held in an open area with no chairs. We all sat on the ground, but it was a convention. And interesting thing, the CID turned up and said, who is that man? Pointing to K.B. Saxena. K.B. Saxena dresses very casually, long hair, he wears rubber chappals, and he has a beard. They said, he's an Akshar. I said, no, he's the Additional Secretary. They said, no, he's an Akshar. I said, okay, go and ask him. They wouldn't believe me. But then the SDM of Beam turned up and he went directly to him and said, sir. So that proved that K.B. Saxena was the Additional Secretary. So the CID and the other paraphernalia, constant members of every congregation we have, so we identify them now. They come and say to us, give us all the information, please. We said, yeah, information is public, you can take what you like. So first, beginning with that convention, we had a convention then in a place called Biawar, and finally we had a convention in Jaipur with the Institute of Development Studies, where we had extremely eminent people, including vice chancellors, people who became vice chancellors of universities. We had people in the IAS who were dealing with wages, who were sympathetic to the cause, the planning commission members, and many others were doing work on labor rights and labor laws, and they all agreed that minimum wages must be paid. And there's no question, and this information must be available to people. So we started expanding the area of understanding so that we would get a larger degree of interest. I'm saying all this to you because in every battle, you have to fight at many levels. And you have to do the theological, the philosophical, the political, the actual, the real, the management. Every single thing, every single area has to be dealt with for any kind of movement, campaign or struggle to be successful. We also did a third thing, which is quite interesting, which we talk very seldom about. In 1990, when liberalization began in India, and every door was getting pried open for foreign investment in various sorts. And there was this great discussion, I don't know how many young people have heard about intellectual property rights. There was something called the Dunkel Draft, which was a big thing which came in, and we were all agitated because it gave away all the rights of ordinary people to foreigners. You know, your basmati chawal could be patented by somebody, your garlic, something your grandmother and my great-grandmother and your grandmother made would be patented. Anything we made from neem, which is margosa, could be patented. So we were all angry with this. So we took out rally after rally, and we found that people, it took us so long to understand the draft, the Dunkel Draft. So to translate it into the idiom of the people became almost impossible. And people used to say, oh, you're agitating about Dhankad. Dhankad was the name of our local MLA. So we thought, now this is not going to be possible. So how do we communicate with people? So we had a huge meeting of about 100 people and talked about the market. We said, now how do we deal with the market, because they are saying that the market is going to dominate us and it's going to become the basis of all our future existence. So if the market is going to be our future existence, how do we deal with the market? And how do you get affected by the market, and what kind of market would you like to have? The answer to this collectively from everybody was that the poor person gets beaten two ways. One is wages, but the other one is the cheating in the marketplace, where what is normally sold at 2 rupees to a person who is well off is sold at 4 to that person who is poor, because that person maybe cannot pay money immediately. So they are told that they can take things on credit, and it multiplies, and you have compound interest on anything you buy. So very soon your mortgage, your land, your building, your livelihood to that shop. And ultimately that shop, which is owned by a person who works in this community, takes over your land, and you're penniless, landless, and you're back even worse than where you started. So they said we must have reasonable prices and so you know that every poor agitation always goes that when there's a price rise, there's huge mass mobilization of people from the very poor communities. I was the dissenting note. Yesterday I told you that I'm not the head of the NKSS. In that meeting we had, I was the dissenting note, because I said no commercial enterprise. We should not do anything commercial. We should struggle and fight. Commerce is a different thing. But I was overruled. I was there were 2 dissenting votes. Chunni Singh, who went with me to Manila, and I were the 2 dissenting notes, and we are very strong people. But we were overruled because majority said we will start the shops. And believe me, they took 10 rupees from ordinary citizens and farmers and 100 rupees from salaried workers. And we set up the Mazdoor Kisan Kirana store. And that store said, we will take this and in 2 years we'll return the money, but without interest. That capital that was raised, about 36,000 rupees for the first shop in Beam, which began in 1991, is now, we've got 5 shops. Can you hazard a guess what the turnover of these 5 shops will be today? It's run by workers, managed by workers, with 1% net profit, transparent. Anyone who's a buyer can go and ask for at what price did you buy the sugar, what price did you buy the jaggery, and announcements are made every day at that shop about what the prices are that particular day. Can you tell me what the turnover of a shop like that would be in the current markets, which are so-called fair and free markets, but are unfair and controlled markets with monopolies? Can you hazard a guess? Come on, you be interactive, talk to me. Come on, say something.
25 lakhs.
5 lakhs. One more? 10 lakhs. Another one?
25 lakhs.
25 lakhs. As of 2014-15, the turnover of these 5 shops is just under 5 crores. On Diwali day alone, each shop sold around an average of 2 lakhs. And Diwali day, Eid, Christmas, whatever festival, we don't charge even that 1% net profit. But the biggest thing, everyone mobilized against us. You think a shop is an easy thing to do? All the Vyaparis, that is the people who are in the business world in Beam, organized against us. Because we had this mic announcing prices, and everyone left whatever they were buying in the other shops and would run to the Mazdoor Kisan Kirana store. They went to the collector and said, ban the mic. The collector said, how can I do that? All India Radio announces all the prices of commodities. You put up another mic and you announce your commodities. So they tried it. They put up another mic in front of us and they played film songs. So people would come, look, hear that film song, but buy from this shop. So they abandoned that. Then came the Ayodhya incident. The masjid was broken. The whole marketplace, the BJP and NDA called for a bandh. We kept, the others called for a bandh. We shut our shop that day. It was the only shop shut in Beam. Then the next day when the NDA called for a bandh because they were pro the breaking of the masjid, we opened our shop. So they came to our shop and said, get out, shut the shop. So we said, no, you want us to shut the shop, you shut the shop. We are not willing to shut the shop. We don't believe in it. We didn't ask you to shut the shop yesterday. Oh, why do you have to force us to shut the shop today? They said, well, we'll come in and throw everything out. So we said, yes, you can throw everything out, but tomorrow you face our owners. 2,500 people have financed the shop. Now they're going to come and ask you questions, you answer them. Because the MKKS is not owned by any one group of people. It's owned by many people. they withdrew. Our shop was open, and within 1 hour, Band was a failure. All the shops opened because a shopkeeper cannot bear it that one shop is open and doing business while his shop or her shop, his shop is shut. So we realized the power of information through these shops as well. So everything that we did made us understand the power of information. How important information is, whether it's we giving it to people, it's the government giving us the information, and for all democracy and all democratic rights and for any kind of equality, we need to have that basic information and a right to question. The buyer from the MKK's shop has a right to ask to see bills of any commodities that were bought, to check the wholesale price and to check the retail price, and we encourage people to see those bills because it's the best monitoring system, and that's why the shops are running reasonably all right. Otherwise, like everywhere else, there would have been corruption in these shops as well, because the temptation for people is just the same. So in this whole exercise with listening to people's voices, we have understood that nothing can be done independently. There are a number of arguments. In fact, I'm just coming back from Manila, where I went to the ADB to address them on Anti-Corruption Day. There were two keynote speakers. There was me, and there was another gentleman who has been a judge in the Supreme Court, who's now in the International Court of Justice in The Hague. And he was saying, you must not have involvement of people, and if people get involved with all these processes, then there can be no justice. And I said to him, the moment you exclude people, you make an exclusive club of anything, and you are going to be corrupt. The only validity of and only way in which you can really be corruption-free is to have an open system where anybody and everybody can monitor. And that's the only way things will happen. And there was this great song that we used to sing in those days, which I'm going to not make you hear now, but I'm going to make you hear at the end of the meeting, because I thought it was the pièce de résistance. That's the most beautiful thing. But maybe we can even decide to hear it now if you like. But that song which went the rounds of everybody, which everybody laughed at and sang along, and everybody agreed that that information of many sorts was vital. The ration shop, the list, you just compare the list on your register of people whose rations have been allotted with the ration cards. You find 150 blank ration cards, as we found in Bilaspur division, where Harsh Mandar, who was divisional commissioner, invited us to hold public audits. We went there and we looked at it and we just compared the register with this individual ration card, and you have a legal case. My friends, you can go straight to court. You don't have to stop to do anything. You take those two, they are vital documents in proving corruption. So in case after case after case after case of poverty, of impoverishment, of denial, of oppression, it became clear that transparency was vital to any kind of delivery system reaching the people, and it was an understanding that came not from theory but from practice. And I will say it over and over again, for me, the wall between thought and action, between theory and practice, is non-existent. Because Gandhiji also said, when he was talking about the Nai Talim, the new system of education, he said there's much more thought in the plumber's line that you hang to see whether it's straight or not than in learning mathematics. It's true, because when you do that and you understand the principle behind it, you learn everything. My mother used to teach physics, and she used to go in the first class she held. She always talked about fear. She always talked about how to get rid of the fear. She always talked about how easy it was. She talked about music, and because music is part of physics, what is sound? It's part of physics. And she got fear out of the minds of her students. And when she went into Army Public School, they used to have a result of 2% in physics. After 1 year that she taught, they got 98%. Because she said the first thing to attack is that fear. So in all these abstract things, you have to have a physical relationship with things. And seer after seer, people after people, many wise people have always said it. And the two lines that I quoted yesterday of Yeats always run in my head, that he that sings a lasting song thinks in a marrow bone. It is true. If you don't feel it inside you, your thought can never get shaped. And I, as a feminist, believe that my mind and body are related, that my mind decides because of my vision of what I understand, what I feel and think, and I see. So in fact, I think my thinking has got sharper, my perception clearer, and my understanding much greater because I am involved in public action, which challenges me at every step to say, it has no need to prove anything, it doesn't pass an exam. It just tells me you're useless if I do something silly. So I have to understand that what I do works, then it's the final test. So I'll end there. Maybe we can have a few questions, because I have budgeted little time for questions in every session. So maybe you can ask some questions and then we can go on to the next. Now there are a lot of films in the next session. This was more talking. So you can give me time in this session to talk and maybe spend a little more time watching the films in the next session. Any questions?